eventually kills like everybody and Han, and they're like, we never really cared for Han that much.
I think this idea would fall apart, Tom, but I think, and I'm patenting this, that in the scene in the first Fast and the Furious where Vin Diesel's car wipes out and then he like flips and gets hit by the train.
Yeah.
So I think the rest of the series, so he's in a coma after that, and all of this is just in his head in a dream state.
That would make a lot of sense.
I mean, so he's
that would really explain Fast 8.
Yeah, I mean,
just all of the absurdity in that movie.
Maybe he had met all these people before, or they were in the hospital, like taking care of him, and he just sort of sees them, and then he plays this scenario out in his head.
I agree with that. Right. I like that. I'm signed on to that theory.
All right. So one thing I do like in this film is I like when they first go to a club and it's serial freak Jesse Bradford, swim fan, and him, and that song "Get Yourself Connected" is on.
Get yourself connected.
Oh no, this is when
on the wall.
That was my first cassette single I ever owned, Tom.
Oh really?
Yeah, and
stereo MCs connected.
No, I messed up because that's when they went to Jolie's party at her house, and I just want.
Yeah, that's true.
The main problem I have with this movie, not a problem, but there's a lot of ADR, Tom.
Is there? I haven't picked up on it.
Oh my gosh.
Is it a lot of stuff out of lip sync?
Yeah, that scene with, let's see, the Plague and, his boss. The two of them, that entire scene by the escalators, all ADR'd. And then when they go into the house at the party, Matthew Lillard's walking around. He's like, Matthew Lillard in the house! And he's just like, talking to everybody. His voice isn't even moving. They're just through lines in there.
Are you sure your internet speed just isn't fast enough that it's not buffering?
Trust me, just watch it. Watch it. You'll obviously see. And then the worst line of the movie comes during Jolie's party where it's Freak and Serial, and Freak looks at a girl and he goes, "Look at that pooper." Yeah. And then he goes, "Spandex. It's a privilege, not a right."
Not a right.
And I just went, that's look at that pooper. That is the grossest thing that I've ever seen in my life. Like her. Look at that pooper.
But she is an attractive woman. So is that an attractive pooper?
No, it was someone else.
That was okay, I thought it was the lady in red spandex that they're talking about.
They were saying that they were looking at somebody else, and they're saying she shouldn't be wearing spandex.
Okay.
But that really came across as against these characters, because they are very inclusive.
Well, they are, like, 17 years old.
Yeah, that's true. I guess since they're all 30 in the movie, you're like, you think they're older than high schoolers. And
yeah, I mean, they're 17. That's the mindset. That's the,
Yeah. And then I do like during that party, this kind of highlights the dynamic where Jolie and her boyfriend go into that room and he like takes off her top and they're like, he did it with one hand. And then some guy goes, difficulty rating. And then some guy goes 7. And then some other guy goes 1 hand. So like they all play off each other with dialogue. So I thought that was pretty fun. And then during that scene though, they do say some kind of funky lines where they're like, her boyfriend does call him Leper Boy in the Decepticons. But I do like when they're like, well, you're in the butter zone now, baby. And they're like, I bet it looks crispy in the dark. But those are hacker. Ian Softly dealt with hackers, and that's what hackers said.
Interesting.
I bet it looks crispy in the dark, and you're in the butter zone now, baby. Those are real sayings.
And I don't even know what you're in the butter zone means. I don't know if I want to know.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what hackers said.
Well, during that party too, we're also introduced to Lord Nikon, played by who is that?
Oh yeah, he's
Lawrence
awesome.
Mason.
Yeah,
the photo memory kid of the group.
And he was so good in Chasing Amy too.
Yeah, I loved his character in this movie. Well, I don't think he's utilized enough.
I loved when him and Lillard, they were planning to battle the main guy, who's this? I keep forgetting skateboarding baddie's name, the Plague. And they're
Fisher Stevens.
They're getting this booklet about the streets, and some guy comes up from a service tunnel, or like a sewer tunnel, I guess, and he's like, "What are you guys doing?" And then the both of them yell, "Truck!" And then the guy looks, and then they run away. Like it's little touches like that really make this movie good. And the writer is Raphael Moreau, but he also wrote Rage, Carrie 2, which was not good. He hasn't done much since. But I don't know. I don't know how much of this was. A lot of it had to have been improv. Do you think?
I'm thinking it's got to be improv. Yeah. A bunch of it has to be improv.
But I do think the story is pretty chill. Like Jesse Bradford goes in, gets a garbage file that they find out has been skimming money, and the guy can't do anything about it, the plague, so he makes up a character that's going to sink tankers because the tankers are all manual, so that these people get arrested and then they can get away with their 21.8 million. I mean, it's pretty absurd, but it's still fun.
So everybody's got their hacker handles, and Jesse Bradford, Joey, wants to get his own alias, but they say he's got to earn it. So the only way he thinks he can earn it is by hacking into this Gibson computer, which is a fictional supercomputer, similar to like the Craze, like 1 and 2 from the 80s. And so this is like the Ellingson Mineral Company's supercomputer that runs the navigation systems for their oil tankers and their fleet. And so he hacks this Gibson and he copies like a fragmented portion of the garbage file. And as you said, that's what the plague has been hiding his worm virus in, which I don't think a worm virus can technically skim financials.
In that world it can.
In that world it can. So he somehow created that virus, and because of Joey copying the file and technically copying part of his virus, he's got to cover it up somehow, afraid that he's going to get exposed. So then he creates the Da Vinci virus that's based off of, what is that called? The Vitruvian Man from Leonardo da Vinci, and creates the virus and calls in the Secret Service then to bust Joey and try to get the disc back so then he can, dissect the disc and cover up his own crime.
I mean, it's not a terrible plan, right? To get other people working for you?
No, I mean, I think his biggest flaw was getting the Secret Service involved in the first place.
Yeah.
I mean, chances are if he had just left Joey alone after he copied that garbage file, he probably wouldn't have been able to figure anything out, let alone the other hackers.
Yeah, because all they would have learned was that a hacker was just skimming money, right?
Yeah, and that's if the kid hackers even figured that out, because they never even decided to look at that fragmented code until Joey got busted by the Secret Service. So then that's what drove them to dive into it even further.
Oh, so you know what I kind of like about the plague is he's a dork. Like he's just a dork that got hired, but he just kind of got caught, and then he got in a bad situation. But he thinks he's awesome. Because he rules that world. He's like, David Spade, the tech guy, or Rob Schneider, the tech guy in SNL?
Yeah. He's the ultimate techie henchman with the ultimate techie henchman goatee.
And then this is the beginning of kind of that sort of tech problem. So he probably had a lot of control because all these CEOs probably grew up in the 60s, 70s, 80s. So they didn't know anything about computers. So they're like, We got this idiot named the Plague, but he tells us he's doing all this stuff for us.
So an interesting thing with that isn't as far-fetched as it sounds. As I was mentioning earlier, like the Legion of Doom and the Masters of Deception, those hacker groups from the late 80s and 90s, early 90s, a lot of them got busted and either sentenced to like a house probation or like jail time. But several of those guys went on to become IT security software engineers for major companies.
Really?
Yeah, so I feel like that's probably something similar to what the Plague went through. So he may not have ever gotten busted, but he was obviously, a previous hacker that had some malicious intent and then figured out that he could make a living designing software for supercomputers, security for supercomputers, and that's how he got into that area.
I feel like he's the kind of hacker who narked on other people and then got that role.
Oh, totally. Him and then he brought his buddy Penn Jillette with him.
Yeah.
Talking about just a random casting choice there.
The one thing I don't miss from the 90s are those circular sunglasses.
Yeah.
There's a scene when we first meet Matthew Lillard's character Serial where he has such tiny circular glasses that I don't know what they do.
They keep the light out of something you're looking directly at. Otherwise, all the other ambient light's still going to blind you.
I guess the computer, you look at those screens a lot. I don't know.
That's the British fad right there. That's the is that what the Brits all wore?
Maybe. I mean, what's funny? When they first started dressing all these stars, the director and other people were like, what the hell is happening? I thought that was a pretty interesting thing. They were like, I don't know about this.
I read a thing where Renoli Santiago, who plays the Phantom Freak, he looked forward to all the casting, or not all the casting, all the wardrobe and costume designs. Like every day that he went in for a fitting, he loved just seeing what these guys threw at him, whereas Lawrence Mason absolutely hated it. Like, he hated going in for costume fittings because he thought the clothing was so weird.
Oh, interesting. Because they put that Santiago in cat t-shirts and stuff. He was loving that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm freaking.
They all had some rather weird, weird wardrobe.
Lillard had the weirdest one when we first meet him. Like, very low jeans and then something tied around his neck.
And then he didn't have pigtails. He had, like, quad tails in his hair.
And I like how Jolie, to show how tough she was, she didn't put the helmet on when they're riding on the motorcycle.
She threw it over her shoulder.
Yeah, but I was just thinking, that's stupid. Like, that's not tough. Like, not wearing a helmet while on the motorcycle is not, you're not a tough guy. You are dumb?
I was going to say, it's, stupidity and toughness often go hand in hand.
But they are 17.
Yeah.
And when I learned to ride a motorcycle, I had shorts and sandals on, and I ran into a mailbox, flipped over, it hurt my knee, then the muffler burned the living daylights out of my leg, and I wrapped it in toilet paper. So I can't talk smack.
Well, I can't either. I've never learned to ride a motorcycle.
I stopped
The last
after
time
that.
I rode on a motorcycle, the lens popped out of my glasses, and we had to walk up and down the street to find them.
No, yeah. I guess I can't talk smack about that. That's not bad.
So she rides away on the motorcycle, and that's shortly after, Dade pisses her off by breaking her wipeout score at that cyber bar.
Yeah.
Which I guess was a prototype to a PlayStation game that had yet been released.
That was a huge setup, Tom. That's like
It was a huge setup.
The setup that they were playing on was easily like, what, 15 to 30,000.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was a big setup.
I mean, what was it? It was, probably 12 different TV screens combined to make one big screen.
And only one person could play at a time. It's not a good investment, Tom.
No, it's not, but it was it was just a prototype. It was a prototype game specifically for this movie. He crushes her score. She gets angry and grabs her hot boyfriend and, rides away helmetless on the motorcycle.
He does that. Yeah. All she does is play one prank on him for the swimming pool. Then he douses her with water, right? He sets off the sprinkler system. He gets put in her class. He beats her high score. He messes with her TV shows. I mean, you don't want to annoy Johnny Lee Miller because he won't stop.
He will bully the love into you.
So Tom, I hit you in the arm. Like, you're the type of guy that would, like, give me six-pack.
Well, yeah. That's Johnny Lee Miller, too.
Yeah. It's like, you got me once. I'm not gonna stop.
I'm gonna make it so you never think about it again.
Hey, so how about this? Let's take a break. Let's look into the cost of installing this Wave Runner thing into our house, and when we come back, we'll talk about more hackers. Welcome back to Movies, Films, and Flicks. Now, we don't quite know how much it would cost to build that thing, but we do know that Tom looks crispy in the dark.
I look crispy in the dark.
You're in the butter zone now, baby.
The butter zone. Whatever that means, I'm in it.
I wish we would have been doing that on set all those years we worked together, man. Like, Mark, I'm in the butter zone, help me out. Or, Mark, we're in the butter zone, smooth sailing.
Or just telling the director at the end of the day, just give it up.
No, like, I guess the butter zone's good, right? Because when you look at butter, and for me, like, when I think of butter, I think of, like, sliding. Like, it's butter. Like, it sounds like something Vince Vaughn would say in Swingers. You're just sort of, it's like you're in the butter zone. Like, but anytime butter's involved, aside from your arteries, it's not going to be like a hard time.
No, it sounds kind of loosey-goosey.
Yeah, you're in the butter zone, baby. Like, it looks like, I feel like you put butter on a slip and slide and just ran across it.
Yeah.
That's what the butter zone is.
It's just smooth sailing.
What about a water park with a slide that just does nothing but butter, and you slide in the butter? Do you know how fast you'd go?
That'd be really gross. That'd be a heck of a shower afterwards.
You would break every record on a slide, though.
Because butter like naturally reflects water, so that's going to be an awful cleanup for everybody afterwards.
Like, the Tampa Typhoon or those massive ones that just drop you down, like the slides that just shoot you way down there. If you took butter on that, people would just never stop.
Why didn't Chevy Chase use butter in Christmas Vacation?
Yeah, exactly. He'd still be sliding.
He could have gone faster. And he probably wouldn't have burned up the sled.
I'd see him in my backyard right now, just sliding through with no